Hey everybody, let's talk about something super fun: national defense spending. Just kidding, it's about as fun as a root canal. But here's the thing. It affects all of us, whether we realize it or not. It's about choices. Do we want more tanks or better healthcare, fancier fighter jets or top-notch schools? It's the classic guns or butter dilemma, and trust me, it's a lot more important than deciding between smooth or crunchy peanut butter, because here's the kicker. Every dollar spent on defense is a dollar that can't be spent somewhere else. Like, things that might actually make our lives better right here at home. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to dive into the wild world of defense budgets and see what it means for you, me, and that guy over there who's definitely not paying attention. Hold on to your hats, folks, because the numbers are about to get real. The US spends more on defense than any other country on Earth. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars every year. That's more than the next 10 countries combined. Why so much, you ask? Well, the short answer is it's complicated. There are legitimate reasons like protecting ourselves and our allies, fighting terrorism and maintaining global stability, or at least trying to. But there's also a lot of waste, fraud, and good old-fashioned bureaucratic bloat. Think cost, overruns on weapon systems we don't even need, or maintaining military bases in countries that don't want us there anymore. It's enough to make you want to scream into a pillow made of $100 bills. And here's the thing. This massive spending has been steadily increasing for decades. So where's all this money coming from? You guessed it, your hard-earned tax dollars. Now, some people argue that a strong military is essential for a strong economy, but others say we're spending way too much on defense, especially when we have so many other pressing needs here at home. So the question becomes, is all this spending actually making us safer, or are we just making a few defense contractors very, very rich? Let's find out. All right, let's talk about healthcare. Or should I say, the lack thereof for millions of Americans. It's no secret that the US healthcare system is a bit of a mess. It's expensive, inefficient, and leaves a lot of people behind. And guess what? Our massive defense spending isn't helping. Think about it. That money could be used to provide affordable healthcare to everyone, just like in many other developed countries. We could be investing in medical research, expanding access to mental health services, or lowering the cost of prescription drugs, but instead we're pouring billions into fighter jets and aircraft carriers. It's like trying to cure a headache with a sledgehammer. It just doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not saying we should completely defund the military and spend it all on healthcare, but we need to have a serious conversation about our priorities. Can we really justify spending so much on defense when so many Americans are struggling to afford basic healthcare? It's a tough question, but one we can no longer afford to ignore. Let's move on to education, shall we? Because if you think our healthcare system is a mess, wait till you hear about our schools. We're talking overcrowded classrooms, underpaid teachers, and outdated textbooks. And don't even get me started on college affordability. Meanwhile, we're spending more on defense than the next 10 countries combined. Think about that for a second. Imagine if we redirected even a fraction of that money to education. We could give our kids the world-class education they deserve. We could have smaller class sizes, higher teacher salaries, and better resources for students. We could make college tuition free, just like many other developed countries. But instead, we're choosing to invest in weapons systems that may never even be used. It's like buying a Ferrari when you can't even afford to fix the leaky roof over your head. Look, I get it. National security is important, but so is investing in our children's future. And right now, it seems like we're choosing guns over education, and that's a choice we may come to regret. All right, let's talk about something we can all agree on. America's infrastructure is falling apart. We're talking about roads full of potholes, bridges on the verge of collapse, and airports that belong in a museum. And guess what? Our massive defense spending isn't helping. That money could be used to fix our crumbling roads and bridges, modernize our airports, and invest in renewable energy. But instead, we're pouring billions into weapons systems we may never even use. It's like buying a new set of tires for your car while ignoring the engine that's about to blow up. Look, I understand that a strong military is important, but so is having a functioning country. And right now, it seems like we're choosing guns over infrastructure. And that's a choice that will cost us dearly in the long run. Okay, so we've talked about the downsides of massive defense spending, but to be fair, there are some arguments in favor of a strong military. The big one, deterrence. The idea is that if we have a big enough stick, nobody will mess with us. And to be honest, it's hard to argue with that logic sometimes. A strong military can deter aggression from other countries, protect our allies, and project power around the world. Plus, there's the whole job creation thing. The defense industry employs millions of Americans, from engineers and scientists to factory workers and truck drivers, so cutting defense spending could have a real impact on the economy. But here's the thing, deterrence only works if you're actually willing to use that big stick. And are we really prepared to go to war over every little thing? Plus, there's always the risk of an arms race, where other countries see our military build up and decide they need to beef up their own defenses, leading to a dangerous and expensive cycle. As for job creation, there are better ways to boost the economy than building weapons. Investing in education, infrastructure, or clean energy will create more jobs in the long run and actually improve people's lives. So, yes, there are some benefits to a strong military, but are they worth the cost? That's the million-dollar question, folks, and it's one we need to answer carefully. All right, so we've established that defense spending is a complicated issue with no easy answers. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing situation. We don't have to choose between guns and butter, between national security and domestic priorities. There's a middle ground here, folks, a way to find a balance between a strong national defense and robust domestic programs. It's about making smart choices, setting priorities, and being more efficient with our spending. But we need to ask ourselves some tough questions. What are the real threats facing our country? What's the best way to address those threats? And can we achieve our national security goals while also investing in our people and our future? It's not going to be easy. It will require compromise, tough choices, and maybe even a little bit of sacrifice. But it's a conversation we need to have. Because the alternative is to keep throwing money at the Pentagon while our schools crumble, our bridges collapse, and our healthcare system leaves millions behind. And frankly, that's just not acceptable. Now, some folks might say that finding a balance between defense and domestic spending is just a pipe dream, that it's impossible to have a strong military without sacrificing social programs. But guess what? It's not impossible. In fact, there are plenty of countries around the world that are doing it right as we speak. Take Germany, for example. They have a strong economy, a high standard of living, and a robust social safety net. And yet, they spend a fraction of what the US does on defense. How do they do it? By focusing on diplomacy, international cooperation, and smart investments in their military. Or how about Norway? They consistently rank among the happiest and most prosperous countries in the world. And yet they spend even less on defense than Germany. Their secret? Investing in education, healthcare, and social programs that create a more equitable and just society. These countries prove that it's possible to be both safe and prosperous without breaking the bank on defense. They show that there are alternatives to the endless cycle of military spending that we're trapped in. We just need to be willing to learn from their example. So here we are, folks, at a crossroads. We can continue down the path we're on, pouring more and more money into the military-industrial complex while our domestic priorities fall by the wayside. Or we can choose a different path, a path that prioritizes both national security and the well-being of our citizens, a path that invests in education, healthcare, infrastructure, and a more sustainable future. It won't be easy. It will require tough choices, compromise, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. But it's a choice we have to make because the future of our country depends on it. The choice is ours. What kind of future do we want for ourselves, for our children, and for generations to come? Do we want a future dominated by fear and militarism, or a future defined by peace, prosperity, and shared progress? Think about it.